Welcome back to the show. If you haven't already, Draken Station, please subscribe to us on YouTube. We are on episode 7, and I want to thank everyone for the support. And again, if you guys want us to talk about anything, hit us at the comment below. We will entertain it. And last but not least, I want to introduce my co-host, the man, the legend himself, who can use any weapon. It doesn't matter. Throw it, he got it. Vince.
I'll try the best I can, right? What's up, guys? How you doing? Welcome back to the show. We had some technical difficulties last week just because we had, as you guys know, we're almost centralized in downtown LA, and our building did sustain some damage, so they did shut it down. So we were not able to record last week, but we're back up, and our guest for today is my buddy Lou Maroto. Is it Maroto? Yeah.
Maroto,
yeah. He's out in Florida. He works for a law enforcement agency. I'll let him talk about himself a little more. I'll just want to say I met Lou through my business partner, the president and CEO of Draken, Jaime Salonga, or Jamie Salonga. And since then, we've been cool. I've also ridden across country on my motorcycle, on my Harley Roadster. And Lou was gracious enough to let me stay at his house, and I always thank him for that. And also, the invite is still open. I still have an extended invite, so whenever you come down, you know what I mean, we'll hook you up and square you away. But you haven't come out to LA since, so I'll let Lou go ahead and introduce himself.
Hello, everybody. My name is Lou Maroto. Like Vince said, I live in Palm Beach County, Florida. I work for a local agency here in Palm Beach. Been on a job for about 25 years. About 4 left before I retire, and I can really have some fun like you guys. But I also have a company, a security company here in Palm Beach, where I do different types of security, depending on the season.
Right. So Lou is kind of our partner out in Florida. If we need anything to get done, he's our contact out there because he's also in the security.
Which part of Florida?
Palm Beach County. So about 45 minutes, an hour north of Miami, Lou. Is that an accurate time?
Yeah. Almost an hour with traffic.
Right.
Miami.
Where all Palm Beach County is a very diverse, from what I understand, and from what I've observed so far. And Lou, correct me if I'm wrong. It's very diverse. You have a very wealthy neighborhood, and then you have a very, I want to say, for lack of a better term, low income neighborhoods. So it's very diverse, and from what I've seen, Lou, if I'm wrong, correct me, but that's what I've seen.
You're right. It's just separated by what we call the intercoastal, which is kind of like the river that leads towards the ocean. But you have Palm Beach on the east side, where all the millionaires live, the big houses, and then west of that intercoastal is West Palm Beach, and all the other municipalities in that area.
Right.
And like I said, very diverse. From low income to medium, you have all types of different people and.
Right. And so we were just talking to Lou before we started recording. He was just out at sniper training today. We were talking about the heat because it's been 100 out here.
Oh yeah,
so
easy.
I asked him how it was over there, and he said probably just as hot, but more humid.
Oh yeah.
So imagine training with all your. I mean, did you guys have all your? I mean, you guys were doing live fire, not live fire, or maybe live fire, but you guys were doing it with all your kit, right?
But today when you use the whole kit, sometimes we just want to re-zero our guns, just to make sure everything's on point in case we get a call out,
right?
Or need it for a search warrant or whatever. But it's like I said, you guys are 100, no humidity, and we were probably in the high 80s today, maybe low 90s, and it felt 20 degrees.
Oh man,
that's the difference between the East and the West. In the West, when it says 90, it's 90, but in the East, it's like 75, but feels like 100.
And it feels like you're constantly wet. You want to take like 3 showers a day.
Yeah.
So Lou, let me ask you a question. Let's start off with how you got into. I kind of wanted to pick your brain on. I know every agency is different. Every agency has different policies, but in general, they operate similar. I know that some counties are a little bit smaller, so I know that sometimes police departments have dedicated either metro departments or SWAT departments, and some other law enforcement agencies have both. So, for example, you work patrol, but you're also a member of the SWAT team. Let me ask you to start off with what made you decide to want to join law enforcement?
Well, so wow, I don't know how much time we have to talk, but I was born and raised in Yonkers, New York, and I graduated high school in 87. So I'm up there. I'm going on 51. But believe it or not, in 1988, I was kind of undecisive whether I wanted to go to college or the military. And I took the New York State Police exam, and I ended up 10,000 plus on the list.
Oh, wow.
That's how many people were taking tests back then. Like NYPD, that was a place to go. State Troopers was a place to go. So fast forward a little bit, I do 2.5 years of college as an architect major. I mean, it went from one spectrum totally to the other side. I do 2.5 years. I get my associate's degree, but I wanted to join the military. I wanted to do it. My dad wouldn't sign my contract out of high school, so I ended up going to college. Once I became of age, I went and saw Uncle Sam.
As most of us have.
Took that ASVAB test, ended up in MEPS in, God, I want to say it was Connecticut. And the next thing I knew, I was in Paradise Island, South Carolina.
Right.
And I'm so glad that I did it.
Right.
I'm so glad that I did it. So I get done with the military, and I end up I didn't want to go back to New York because back then I got married halfway through my military career, or my 4 years.
And how many years? You served 4. Gotcha. Okay.
Yep, I did 4 years. I didn't know if I want to make it a career or not. I was always too busy kind of going back and forth from New York to see my fiance and my wife back then. But I didn't want to go back to New York. So we moved down to West Palm Beach, Cold Turkey.
Wow.
We found an apartment, and then I was working. I mean, I was literally like struggling financially.
Right.
I think, and how it is coming out of the military. It's not like they cut your check for $20,000 and say see you later. Thank you for service.
Yeah.
So I was working like 3 different jobs, bro.
Yeah.
I was working at a rent-a-car agency. I was working for some rich lady in Wellington picking up horse manure. And then I was volunteering with PBSO, with the sheriff's office, directing traffic at the airport.
Okay.
So I was just trying to get my foot in the door. There's so many different ways you can get your foot in the door. And at the time, for me, that was the best way.
And so do you recommend for people that want to go through that particular pipeline, do you recommend that they either apply straight out of high school or go to college first, or get their foot in the door, just as you mentioned, and worked another job capacity for the department? Some people have they have clerks, they have code enforcement, and you were doing traffic enforcement, or and do you recommend that they get their foot in the door? Which way do you recommend they get their foot in the door the best?
Nowadays, Vince, there's about 5 or 6 different ways you can get your foot in the door. Okay. And you can start as early as, I believe, 16 in what we call the Explorer program.
Right.
So, you have to do a certain amount of hours before you are accepted into the program. And then as the time goes by and you become of age, if you're doing well in the program, they might even sponsor you. That particular department or sheriff's office,
right,
that's allowing you to be an explorer,
right,
might even sponsor you to go to the academy.
Right. And so let me, before we go on any further, so the Explorer program, it's almost like ROTC for people that have
Yes.
joined the military, right?
Absolutely.
And when you say sponsor, what does that consist of? Is that someone writing a referral letter or
Financially?
Well, I don't think it costs anything to go to the academy.
Oh.
Maybe. So I don't know. Maybe Lou, expand on that for me, please, or us. Excuse me.
It's the sponsorship. Sponsorship means that the department or the sheriff's office, whatever agency you're at, has agreed to hire you.
Gotcha.
They've given you a lot of commitment. You're committed to them. So the best thing about that program is that you get paid while you're in school trying to finish the academy.
Nice. So then they do pay. They do pay you. They give you almost like a
tuition.
Yeah, kind
They
of.
pay you a salary. They pay you a salary.
While you're going through the academy.
Oh, that's a good program.
If you get sponsored.
Yeah. Now there's someone like people like me. I ended up using my GI Bill.
Right.
But again, once you get your GI Bill, now you at least have that state certification paperwork that allows you to apply to pretty much any department in the state of Florida.
Right. And so when you're on the Explorer program and you get sponsored, does that fast track you on the waiting list as well for the academy?
There's certain spots, that are allotted for I think that program.
Right.
But for a young kid or young lady that's interested in making of law enforcement their career, their profession, it's probably one of the best ways. Because like you just said, it is a paramilitary organization. They do wear uniforms. They have rank structure.
Right.
They have to go They have to go to a separate Explorer program academy for like a week or something like that.
Almost like a pre-ranger
So
or like a pre-course.
They want to be there. Yeah, it shows that they want to be there.
Right.
And we've had so many officers that I know personally that have gone through that program. That's how I know I'm really old.
Right.
Because I've seen these guys and young ladies go through the program. One of them is actually one of my best friends. He's probably going to get promoted here real soon to sergeant.
So you're saying the Explorer program, number one, has a high success rate of people being able to get into the academy and then becoming police officers or deputies or whatever the case may be. And then it also prepares them a lot better for the academy and when they get to work.
Absolutely. We actually, remember, I'm in the training division, but I'm temporarily right now assigned to road patrol because of just some manpower issues.
Right.
But the Explorers, they actually go through pretty much everything that a regular officer out of the academy has to go through in service training.
Right. They do ride-alongs.
So we put them ride-alongs, defensive tactics, first aid, CPR, all the high liability courses, or they have to do all that stuff. They get to shoot,
right?
Firearm safety, driving, everything.
Nice. So, you're working 3 different jobs, right? You're shoveling horse manure. You're working traffic, and then what was the other one you said?
I worked for a rent-a-car agency, cleaning the car.
Rental car, okay. And then explain what happens after that. You get your foot in the door. Is it the current agency that you're working for now? The same agency?
No, it was for the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office.
Okay.
So I was trying to get myself in the door as I forget what they call it. Jesus, you pretty much you got the full uniform. You had to go through certain programs, but you didn't get paid. Reserve
gotcha.
Officer.
Gotcha. Okay.
That's what you're called.
Are those the ones that make $1 a year?
Yeah.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Pretty much.
Gotcha.
You had to ride with a certified deputy. And you were allowed to do certain things, but that didn't pan out for me. They weren't accepting applications, so I ended up putting in 1994. I ended up putting an application at the agency that I work for now.
Okay. Now let me ask you something real quick.
Yeah.
What made you want to go into law enforcement specifically? Was anybody in your family prior law enforcement, or that's just something that you want to do from day one when you were young and something that you looked up to the law enforcement officers, et cetera?
Yeah, it's no. I'm the first one of my family to be in law enforcement, and then my brother, who's 2 years younger than me, ended up doing the same.
Okay.
But it's just something that I always want to do. Don't want to sound that with you. I don't want to use that cliche, sheepdog or nothing like that. But
Right.
I always found myself that I was that uniform person, a person that wanted to help other people.
Yeah, the calling. Right? You had that calling in you that you want to help people out.
That's it wasn't meant for me to sit at a drafting table and design buildings or whatever structures. It was more of like going to the street and chasing guys and catching, doing all the fun stuff.
Right.
Which you can't do a lot of nowadays.
Right. Well, it's the culture has changed. I mean, some, and a lot has been for the better, but some has made your job more restrictive.
Yeah, I got hired in '96.
Right.
So ultimately, I got hired in '96. And let me tell you, back then it's like being in the military. You had a platoon
right.
Of maybe 12, 15 guys riding a night together, and it was really a brotherhood. You answered your calls, and when the calls got slow, you went out there and you became proactive. You did the jump outs on the dope boys. You did surveillance. You got to do a little bit of everything. So it was so much fun back then.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of red tape now, right? And there's restricting you guys from being a little bit more proactive, let's say. Yeah,
you can still be proactive. It's just I think in general we've lost law enforcement has lost some respect, and I get it. Some there are bad apples in every tree,
right?
In any profession, I don't care which one it is. But and those bad apples do put a bad name or bad taste in people's mouth for that whole street. I'm gonna say people like me because I know I'm probably as honest as they come, and then this is my job, this is my profession, this is what I love to do.
Right.
But one of the things that helps me out, and I try to explain to others, is being able to communicate. You have to know the people in your neighborhood, the residents.
Right.
You have to be able to know them by last name, by last name. They know you by last name. There's a mutual respect there.
Okay, gotcha. So, would you say that? Well, because I know I've hung out with you, and obviously we spent time together out in Florida, and I know that you're a people person. It takes communication. Let's address that real quick. I don't want to touch on that too much because it's a hot topic, and I don't want to cause a bunch of people, causing backlash on our YouTube comments or whatever the case may be. But let me ask you this: from what I've seen, okay, and this could be different agency to agency, right? The one bad part that I've seen about the difference between the bad apples and the good apples, right? That there's a few bad apples on the tree, right? But from what I've seen in the past, or from my experience in the past, and see, I'm not in the agency, so I don't know the inner workings, right? But I think what people are most frustrated about is when the bad apple does do something. Number one, and this is just my perception, right? The other good apples just kind of like almost mind their own business. They're like, hey, that guy's a bad apple, we can't really do much. The other thing that I was mentioning to somebody is it's the same thing as a job here. And if you're in corporate America, it takes a lot nowadays to fire somebody, right? You can get a few complaints on you as an officer, but unless you do something that that is completely against policy and it's very definite of what you did, and it's a fireable offense or a terminable offense, then that's what it takes to get out. So I feel like just even in corporate America or anywhere in America that has a workplace, it's the same. It's the same in those agencies where there has to be progressive discipline. There has to be a formal process of removing an officer or et cetera, a deputy from the force. Is that correct or?
Well, and you're on point. Let me tell you, the agencies that I work for, they do a real, real good job at policing ourselves. Because the community expects that.
Right.
They that's a given. You have to be able to police yourselves. And unfortunately, guys do. There is progressive discipline. It starts from the bottom. It can be a verbal warning or a verbal reprimand to wrin, and then it slowly progresses to other stuff.
Right.
I think
I think our department, most departments here in Florida, I think are doing a great job at policing ourselves.
I think
because
I think the sad part of it all is we see only on TV what the cops do bad, and we don't see enough what they do good, and to balance those two acts is just so hard, because in the minds of a lot of Americans, they just naturally want to hate cops, and to change that perception is just so hard.
Well, in my humble opinion, where I think even, I mean, we're just not bred, but it's almost in our DNA to almost have almost of a spite towards authority.
Yeah.
Right. The majority of Americans,
for sure.
They don't want to be told what to do. They want to live their life as free as possible. Right.
And they want to see what buttons they can push.
And then they're testing somebody. Yeah. And this is in everything. Right. So like innovation. Right. You're pushing the limits constantly. Mm-hmm. Us as Americans, we're pushing the limits constantly, and we do well. The majority, right, push the limits, and that goes. And if that applies to one aspect of your life, it applies to all the aspects of your life, right? Yes. And here's the other thing too, right? Is yes, as there is bad apples, like in law enforcement agency and any agency and any organization. Even any neighborhood, right? Everywhere there's bad apples,
sure.
Right?
And you don't want to be a rat,
right? But those people don't get called out as much as well as they should either. Like, for example, and just right off the top of my head, right? I can't remember, and I think this happened in Florida. Luke, correct me if I'm wrong. I've been saying that way too much, so you guys got to stop me from saying that. It's just because I've been saying that because I know that people are very definitive about what they think, yeah. And then if you don't clarify yourself,
sure,
prior to saying making a statement, they're like, oh, you're wrong on that, right? So, but I think she was in Florida. I think she was in Miami at the time. She was either a doctor or a lawyer, and she almost like beat up her Uber driver, right? And I don't know if you remember.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I
do.
And she got videotaped, and she lost her job.
Yeah.
Right? But when normal people do that, right? Well, no, I don't say normal people. Let's just classify as the regular general public or civilians do that. It doesn't get called out as much.
No, right? But she lost her job.
Yeah, she lost her job.
So there was some justification to it because. Obviously, when she's out of work, she's out of work. But the fact that she still had her uniform on.
But I feel like because the population is so grand of civilians and general public versus law enforcement agencies, any medical industries, or whatever the case may be, they do that all like literally every second in the U.S. I can guarantee you, every second in the U.S. someone's acting a fool.
Yeah.
Right. Someone for sure is acting a fool. But we
call it being an American.
They get away with it more than anybody else. Granted, law enforcement, security, any first responders, we're held to a higher standard. We shouldn't be acting that way, right?
Correct. You both hit the point right there. You're higher. To a higher
We're held
standard.
To a higher standard. We should know better, right?
For sure.
And it takes that takes a lot of discipline, right? When someone's yelling in your face, someone's calling you names, they're even spitting or whatever the case.
So let me throw this in. You guys can give me your point of view. Now, I like to see it as this: we are all human beings, right? When I saw the protest, I'm thinking to myself, what do you think the cop was gonna do when you threw shit at him, called him whatever you called him? I think as a human being, they can only take so much, and their professionalism to help to hold their own in that time.
Right.
It's like they're antagonizing, expecting no punishment back in return. And if you took your title away, you're not a cop, you're person to person, you can only take so much crap, right? The human aspect has to kick back in, correct?
Right. Well, so for me, I'll say this: 90%, probably more than 90% of the time, probably 98% of the time, I can brush a lot of things off. I've dealt with a lot of individuals, quote, Karen.
But we all have a breaking point, yeah?
So like the other 2% sometimes, yeah, you're going to catch me on even if it's not a bad day, we all have triggers. And yeah, you're going to slip. If you work doing anything long enough, and I was just talking to another person that was like a local 7-Eleven that I go to and grab coffee a lot. Waiters, right? You can be a waiter and in a restaurant, and how many complaints do you get? By whoever, right? You're going to get complaints. No, there's no one is going to be happy with your entire career. You're going to get complaints. So you should go into whatever job you think you're doing or whatever. And this is for the young people going into any career. Let me just tell you this right now. Don't go in expecting to get don't go in saying, well, I'm going to get complaints anyway, so I'm going to do what the hell I want. But don't freak out when you first get your first complaints or you get criticism from people, because guess what? If you dedicate your life to anything, it's going to happen. You're going to get it, and somebody's not going to be happy with the way you treated them or the way you reacted to their scenario or situation. You weren't empathetic enough, you weren't sympathetic enough, or you just didn't respond the way that they would prefer.
Correct.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right? So I remember being younger and I would freak out. I'd be like, oh man, this is going to go on my record, or this is going to go on my file. I'm telling everybody right now that's the younger generation, chill out. Just as long as you know you did the best you could to handle the situation, then chill out. And if your employer for some reason doesn't see it the way you do, it's not the end of the world. You'll move on. You'll get back on the road. Yeah, right. Exactly. So let's jump back. Let's jump back into Lou's experience. Let's fast forward now. I don't want to fast forward all the way up to today, but tell me or tell us what type. When did you start getting into these special teams of the law enforcement agency?
Okay. So again, I got hired in '96. I did 2 years on the road, and so in '98, I made my first move. There was a great boss that I had back then, who's, these guys are watching, your bosses are watching what kind of work you produce, how you communicate, how you act with citizens. So I made a move to what we had was a uniformed, kind of like a street level bicycle unit.
Okay. And
we were pretty much assigned to the areas of the city that were producing the most crime, or that had the most crime, from narcotics to burglaries and everything in between. So I went to that unit, and I really, that's where I really got to kind of get my feet wet and really started to liken the narcotics investigations portion, organized crime, stuff like that. So I did a couple of years in that unit, and then I made another lateral move to what we called back then the criminal apprehension team.
Okay.
So now you got into, the CAT team. You rode in a van, 6 deep, and
ballistic shields, doing raids.
Yeah, no, it wasn't even so much raids. We got to write a lot of search warrants. We used a lot of CIs. Cooperating sources.
Gotcha.
That got us into houses via search warrants.
Right.
But that's where you really start building your foundation in the narcotics investigation area.
Okay.
And then a couple of years later, I make another lateral move to actually organized crime, and that was pretty cool.
Right. And how many years did you do that?
In organized crime, I was there from 2000 to 2006, and it just, you got to work the bigger portion of the cases. You got to work them up.
You got to use your brain a little bit more, right?
Yeah, you got to work with all the the alphabet boys. You got to a lot of I learned a lot through those guys. Um, and again, you're doing bigger bigger organizations, not the regular, nickel dime bag, maybe half an ounce guy in the street. You're doing, half a key, full key, or couple of birds at a time.
Right.
But it was fun. But yeah, you had to be smart. Again, like you said before, you had to be professional. You have in order for you to be in those positions, you have to be trusted because you're dealing with money that are used for investigative funds.
Right.
So
integrity is big, right?
Big time.
Wow.
I'm telling you, they won't put you in that unit if there's any inclination that you may be doing something that you're not supposed to be doing.
Now let me ask you a question, because I know that it's been I think it's a general idea that if you have bad credit, you can't go into a lot of special units, right? Because you're a risk factor at that point.
Believe it or not, if you have bad credit, you may not get hired at all.
Right.
Is that? I want to ask you guys that. Is that a thing for a lot of corporations, like just job in general, because they see it as, you might do something to, steal because
if you're in a position where you have access to money, funds, right? Yeah, liquid funds. Yeah. And in the law enforcement, it's if you have bad credit or you have gambling debts or whatever the case may be. We do very strange things that we would normally not do, and this actually goes into like when criminalistics, when you're talking about why people do certain things too. They do things that are irrational when they're put in irrational circumstances, right, Lou?
Yeah, I mean, like we're talking about, integrity is big time. From when they do your background investigation, when you're trying to get hired. Especially nowadays, the standards are so high that speeding tickets can get you disqualified from being hired. Stuff like that. But yeah, your credit is checked, and all that stuff is researched by our background investigators.
Okay. And what would you recommend for people that are on patrol? And so now people have gotten their foot in the door via, however, they went and got a degree, or they went through the Explorer program. They've been a couple years on patrol. Like you said, do the best you can do. Your bosses are watching you, right? So when it's time for example, recruiting into a particular division of the agency, either number one, you can either apply, right, for a slot, get in line with everybody else, or you can probably get recommended because your leaders see something in you that you're not just the grunt on the ground that just does his basic work, doesn't do any more, doesn't do any less. How do you recommend for the people or for the officers, or even the people that want to become officers, going through the pipeline and getting their foot in the door in special teams, for example, narcotics, vice, special weapons and tactics, CAT teams, etc. What's the easiest way, or there is no easy way, but what's the best way to get their foot in the door on that?
I think the best way is to start demonstrating to your supervisors, the command staff, when you're in patrol, start working some of those cases yourself. Just because you're on patrol, going to call, there may be a time where you may stop a vehicle, or you may talk to maybe one of the local prostitutes or people that that are stuck on substance abuse, and they may give you intel.
Right.
So you can start working some cases yourself, in between calls. But then the second thing that I would recommend is start taking the classes. From basics of like report writing, because report writing is huge when you're trying to work narcotics investigations. You got to be able to articulate in chronological order what your case incurs.
Whatever transpired.
Right. Yeah, you have to be able to put it down on paper where if I give it to you, Vince, hey, read this. Tell me what you think. Okay, so A, B, C, D occurred, and this is how we ended up in the house.
Right.
So start taking all the courses that you can. You know, there's so many different courses, and I know you guys have them. You know, they're everywhere.
Right.
Narcotics investigation. There's so many seminars that you can go to. But yeah, you know, start working some of those cases yourself. Start educating yourself with classes. So when you do apply, because there is an application process, it's not just given to you.
Right.
You do have to apply. You go in front of a board, and you know, you have to articulate why you think you're the best candidate for that position.
Right.
So that's my recommendation to any young officer.
Now let me ask you an inside question. Now, going above and beyond, does that get frowned upon sometimes by your fellow officers?
No, absolutely not. You mean like, you know, I'm not gonna say overachiever. You mean like somebody that likes traffic, and as soon as they go in service, they start pulling over cars and stuff like that?
No, I mean because for example, right? You're a patrol officer, and it isn't really, you know, you're doing a little bit more than you should as far as investigative, right? Because you're not a detective, but you do obviously look for intel and gain intel as a patrol officer, right?
Yep.
But when you start going a little bit above and beyond and trying to get in the mix with some other things, is that frowned upon sometimes by other officers that you know, sometimes they're like, why are you doing so much? Why are you doing extra work, et cetera, et cetera?
You know, there may be some salty dogs out there that may say, hey, just chill out and answer your calls from 5 a.m. to 5 p.m, whatever.
Right.
But if you're a young officer and you're trying to make some moves within the agency, you know, you don't plan on leaving, you're trying to make the agency your home base for the next 30 years, then you do what you have to do to make yourself better, you know, and move to those other positions.
Right. So even if you not if you're stepping on people's toes, but even if you face a little bit of adversity, do the best you can, regardless of any bad suggestions or bad advice you might get from somebody.
Bro, absolutely. No, I would tell the officer, keep doing your thing, keep, you know, do you, you know, keep being you.
Right.
Because the guys upstairs that work in those organizations, in those specialized unit, appreciate the information that you're passing on to them.
Gotcha.
If
makes a lot of sense.
Yourself,
right.
You know, because listen, and you know how it is, Vince. On the road, you're pretty much handling, you know, everything that the normal civilian does not want a part of.
Right.
Ballistics, suicides, overdoses, burglaries, you know, all that kind of stuff right there.
Right.
So if you do have the time to gather some of that intel, well, you work it. If not, you pass it on to somebody in the narcotics division. Right. And say, hey, listen, I got a little sticky here today with this information. Check it out. You might get something out of it.
Right. It may lead to something, it may not, but at least you're providing intel, and let the guys that may know more than you decide whether it's actionable or not.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So you do narcotics, you do organized crime, and then let's get to the tactical stuff. When did you start getting into the tactical stuff? You were already a Marine, right? Your MOS was, I think you were a grunt in the Marines?
What does MOS mean?
No, I went the supply route.
Oh man, military occupational specialty. Okay. Right. Okay. So you were in the Marines. You did supply, right? What is it? What's the saying? If without supply, the bullets don't fly, or something like that. That's the saying they like to use, right?
I remember I tried being a military police.
MP, yeah.
But my score said grunt or supply.
I got you.
And I didn't know any better. Bro. I was green as can be.
Yeah.
And I was, so what's supply? And they were like, you do this, that, warehouses, whatever.
Yeah.
I had no idea, and I said, all right, next thing you know, I'm in a warehouse.
Hey, they get you no matter what. But here's the important thing. You did serve, right? So
yeah, I did my time honorably. So
and the way I see Marines are not the majority, but there are some hard charging grunts, regardless of what MOS they're in. So let's talk about when you decided to go TAC. When did you decide you want to get into the TAC teams?
Right at 2000. The way it worked back then, as soon as you got hired, you tried to get into that SWAT team. That was your number one team that you wanted to get on. Again, with the agency that I work with, they were very well known throughout the state. When they went to schools, they knew who you were. They knew the tactics that we used. So I tried on in 2000. We probably had a class of 15 people trying out,
which is pretty small, but not for your particular agency in like suburban areas. Right?
Yeah, for our agency, that was a good group and it was all young officers, real young. Everybody was pretty much in shape, So we all passed, but like 4 or 5 got picked in front of me. So now you have to try out again next year. You don't get put on the list. You have to try out again. Oh
man, yeah. Well, yeah, because a lot could happen. A lot could happen in a year, right? You could eat a lot of carbs, a lot of donuts. Not be running like you should, not be doing your push-ups, pull-ups, and then that's it, right?
Bro, it was a 4-day trial back then. Oh. 4 days. That's
12, just the trial, 30. Right?
That was just a trial.
Right, exactly.
That was just to try to get on the team.
Right.
And you were voted on.
Gotcha.
You were voted into the team.
Right.
So I did it the second year, and I finally got on in 2001. Okay. I'm sorry, 99 I tried out, 2000 I got on.
Gotcha. Okay. And what do you think? What do you think stopped? Look, if you're not first, as long as you're not last, right? Let's put that out in the air. But what do you think stopped you from getting on the first time? Just available slots. You were a little bit younger, maybe a little, and see, like, I tell a lot of people, like, sometimes you're not right for the special teams because you're not mature enough, and it's just something that you got to understand, right? Mm-hmm. Because we're not mature enough at the time, and we don't know that, but the people selecting us know that, right? But I think that's why I think I wasn't ready for certain things in the military and now that I look back on it, I was like, yeah, I probably wasn't ready for that yet anyways. But what do you think was the
losing your...
Oh, you're losing. Yeah. So sorry. So
it was like a scrambler.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a little bit because of the connection. I got you. So what do you think was your biggest, what do you think stopped you from the first year versus the second year? You think just available slots and you just came in right below the rest of them?
No, I passed everything, but there was a couple of guys that had a couple of months over me.
Gotcha. So seniority, right?
Seniority. So
a little bit more experience.
Those 4 guys, they just have more time on the job. Maybe even a year over me. So those guys got put on. I tried out the second year, and then I got put on.
Okay. And when you got put on, people think that's it. I'm in this particular unit. I'm good to go, right? That's completely opposite, right? You gotta start carrying your load immediately, right?
Man, it's I'm glad that I got on the year that I did, because man, there were some old timers on that team.
Yeah. So you got some good teaching, right?
Old fashioned education, man.
Right.
These guys, some of them guys have been through several shootings. All of them have been through the door hundreds of times.
Right.
But yeah, I started at the bottom, from changing. They won't even talk to you.
Right.
Bro, you know how it is.
Yeah,
they won't talk to you.
You're a peon at that day. You're nada. You're nothing, dude.
You made the juice. You threw away the garbage, and you sat in your locker and you shut the hell up. Right?
Yeah. So you get on the team, and you go through now. And what are we looking for as far as timeline? What year is this? 2000, right?
Yeah, that was 2000.
Okay.
So 2000 to 2006. A position opened up that only opens up once in a blue moon, and that was K9.
Nice.
And unfortunately, because the way they look at it with training days and all that stuff, how many days you're really going to be at work, versus training, my agency didn't want a canine on the SWAT team, so I had to pick either or. So I went with canine, and I said I can always come back. I didn't get thrown off the team. I was pretty much always there because I assisted with warrants using my dog. But technically, I had to come off the team to get on canine.
Right. I met one of your canines. I met one of your canines that was retired before he went to his final resting place when I went over there in Florida. Yeah. I met one.
So you got to meet my dog Ike.
Yeah, Ike was a good. Just meeting him and hanging out with him while I was there. I can't tell you enough. We don't deserve canines sometimes, man. They're solid, man. How are we doing on time? We got like 30 minutes?
15
minutes. All right. Lou, I want to fast track. Up to now. Okay. Go through what training you've from now. We're talking about 2000 when you did K9. We're talking about what, 2002, 2003?
2000 from 2000 to Jesus. What did I say? From 2007 till 2016, I pretty much did K9.
Gotcha. Okay, but you were still SWAT qualified, right? Because you had gone through you'd gone through the course or the selection, then you'd actually gone through some training. So if they needed to pull you on for whatever the case may be, you can get pulled on, right?
I got put back on the team in 2012.
Okay, so when they decided, gotcha. Right. So now let's fast track to now. How many? So now you've been put on. When did you join the sniper team?
Jesus, it's been about 6 years now. So what? 2014.
What made you want to get into precision marksmanship?
Bro, hey, believe it or not, Vince, because I came back to the team and I'm humble as can be. I was just happy to be back on the team. I almost had to start like from the beginning. They threw me on the first couple of doors, then they started putting me in the stick, worked my way up to the front again,
Start over. So right.
Basics. And then one day, people retire. So they had an open spot. Yeah. And I remember the day all the team leaders were there, the commander sitting around his table, and they bring me in, and we were shooting. I had my I had an MP5 slung, and I sound like, do I need to put this away before I sit down?
Right, because, right. They want me lock and clear your weapon.
And they asked me, hey, what do you think about coming on the sniper team? And I was like, hell yeah. Absolutely. So, and I'm glad I did it. It's every day is such a learning curve that, you always learn about.
Now let me pause. The sniper team, that's part of like a division in the police?
Well, it's part of a team inside of a SWAT team or a special team inside of whatever law enforcement agency. So you're getting, at this point, you're getting smaller and smaller, right? Into more elite and more elite, right?
More precise.
Well, yeah. Everyone has a different job skill, right? So either you can learn it or you can't. Some guys are really good at shooting. Some guys are marksmen, like from day one. Some guys can learn it, and some guys just don't really want to even mess with it. Some guys just can't shoot. Who knows? It's one of those skills, right?
Yeah.
But so you have a specialized team inside of a tactical team, right? So, for example, if you have a hostage situation or you have a barricaded situation, generally you're gonna have the SWAT come and respond. Right?
And is SWAT part of police department?
Yeah, for sure. They're a specialized team inside of a police department, right?
Okay.
So your patrol officer, right? They go through the academy is very different depending on the agency, right? But
I know this sounds crazy, but what does SWAT?
Special weapons and tactics.
Okay.
And across every agency, it's different, right? So not every law enforcement agency, but for the most part, they have like out here, sheriffs call their SWAT team something else, right? LAPD calls their SWAT. Some people call them cat teams, right? Criminal operations teams, right? They all have different names, right? SRB or whatever. It's all kinds of different things. So these are the guys that are specially trained to do, like, for example, hostage situations, barricaded situations, dudes that don't want to come out of their house. They barricaded themselves in the house, and they've got a firearm or whatever. They're known to be armed, because your regular patrol officer, number one, doesn't have the training to stack on a door, right, and do an entry, a proper room. They have basic room entry skills, and the second thing is that they don't have the gear right? So they don't have it in their trunk where they can throw on all their ballistic protection gear to be able to get. And then because they're normally working, and you can step in at any time, Lou, and correct me.
You're on point. Go ahead.
A lot of patrol officers don't constantly work with a group of 5-6 man teams, and that is very, very, very important when you're doing high risk things that you, like, for example, a room entry. You got to know the 4 or 5 people that you've done. You got to practice over and over and over again. And the patrol officers could possibly do an entry, but they're not going to do it as good as the guys that have been doing it 4 or 5 times over and over. That's literally what they do. This SWAT team is specifically trained to do certain things like that. And then you got you have sniper teams. So normally, for example, in the military, when I was in Scout Sniper Platoon, you have 3 teams and a headquarters team, and each team was assigned to one infantry company, right? So we were the sniper team, and we had also reconnaissance. So we had a 5-man team, and then in there you have a sniper team. So it gets more elite, right? Wow. So per team, I don't know, in SWAT team, I'm assuming, or I want to guess, that they probably had at least 2 sniper teams attached to.
We have 6, not 6 teams. We have a total of 6 snipers. 6 and a supervisor.
Okay, so you get broken up into normally what is a sniper and a spotter, right?
Right.
So you have
and what does a spotter do?
Okay. In law enforcement, it may be different, but your spotter is your more senior person that is calling the shots and giving you information because they're senior and they're more experienced and they're supposed to have more knowledge than the actual sniper. They're gonna direct you and instruct you on your wind, your range, any obstructions. They're gonna basically guide you along, the sniper, the actual guy behind the rifle, on how to make this, because you're making a cold bore shot. So making a cold bore shot,
got to be on point.
It's got to be on point. You can't, especially in law enforcement. I think it's a little bit different because it's not like in a war zone where you miss a shot, the guy may run around, he may pick his head up, back up again. You might get another shot. Yeah. In law enforcement, you screw up in a hostage situation, you miss a cold bore shot, it's going to be all over the fucking news. Excuse my language. It's going to be all over the news. Yeah. Right. Wow. So it's the spotter is your guy that's making sure that you make that shot spot on, right? That you don't screw up. And usually the spotter is the senior guy, and he's got a spotting scope, and he's been doing this probably more years than you. He
knows the wind is blowing in the east, the whole night.
Florida, humidity. I mean, wow. For SWAT in Florida, or SWAT most of the time, their shots, humidity is not going to really affect the outer ballistics of the round, right?
And when you say ballistic, what does that mean?
So you're talking about environmental issues that are going to affect your trajectory of your round, right? We're getting a little scientific, right?
Because but I don't know.
As soon as the round, your bullet comes out of the barrel, you have inner ballistics that's going to affect your round, right? The twist on your barrel, right? Because it twists the round, so it flies. The trajectory flies true. You have the powder, right? That affects how the round. So all that kind of stuff is your inner ballistics. Okay. Right before the bullet leaves the barrel. Lou, it's been 14 years for me. So if I'm wrong on something, or let me know. Okay.
Oh yeah, I mean, you explained it good.
Outer ballistics is everything that affects that round outside of the barrel. Okay, so humidity, gravity, right? If you're taking a long shot, right?
Or rain, rain can rain.
Yeah, for sure, dude. Because it's gonna hit rain. It's gonna, outer ballistics glass. If you're gonna have to shoot through glass. Now, glass is like, unless you have a super heavy round, like a 50 cal round, can affect the trajectory big time, right? So I think that's more important for SWAT teams because they may have to shoot through a window, for example, as far as outer ballistics go. But I mean. So those are the things that can affect your the round getting on target to your to whatever your target is. And now that we're talking about outer ballistics, let me ask Lou, what is the biggest challenge for SWAT teams in an urban environment as far as outer ballistics and affecting your hit on target?
Windage, because we have the the intercoastal. We have these high buildings, so the wind is always swirling everywhere.
Gotcha.
We actually just did a class. I want to say it was a couple months ago, maybe early last year, where we got a chance to go to the Dolphin Stadium, and you've probably heard of it. I won't say the company's name, but that's where that's their number one
bread and butter.
Force is this snipers responding to a venue.
Gotcha.
And it was awesome because we shot from different elevations. We shot our two different rounds that we shoot. And you only had, I think it was a 22 by 36 barrier, that held the target.
Right.
And it's a stadium.
Right.
Missing was not an option.
No.
But it was awesome because every day we re-zeroed, we made sure that we had that cold bore shot. And then we started moving throughout the whole stadium.
Right.
I mean, we shot off the rafters. We shot, from end zone seats and everywhere in between there.
Wow. Are you guys shooting 308?
Yes. Okay. Yeah, we got the new accuracy internationals.
Gotcha.
Excuse me.
And these are bullets you're talking about?
Yeah, we're talking about the caliber of the round. And the reason I'm asking is because the 308 has a different curve. So shooting from elevation with a 308, it's been a long time for me. Even I'll shoot recreationally with my Remington 700, but I need to go shoot with Lou because he's gonna school me. He can school me on a lot of stuff because when you're shooting from elevation, especially with a round that has a big curve on it, your trajectory is a lot different, and it takes your dope it's called the dope is a lot different. So the reason I asked them is because I'm curious to whether a lot of agencies are switching to like 6.5 Creedmoor because it shoots a lot straighter. But you still get the advantages of like a 308 round hitting his target.
I think some of the bigger, I'm gonna say like the sheriff's office, I believe they have the 6.5.
Okay.
We're a small agency, but yeah, we have 6 new AIs that's suppressed.
Gotcha. Nice.
So and it's got a shorter barrel. So for what we do or what our environment is, we don't need a 1,000-yard shot.
Right. No, that's for sure.
Yeah. Be a little bit up more close and personal. So what we have now, which is awesome because our bosses got it for us. And we've been playing with them, it's just so much fun to shoot.
And you're running what, 18, 20-inch barrels?
No, this is I want to say it's 16-inch.
Okay. And you like the
16 with a 7-inch suppressor.
Okay, and you like the ballistics personally. You like the ballistics coming out of that 16-inch.
Yeah, like I said, we use 2 different rounds because one soft targets and the other one may be for, or like you said, shooting through a hard target, glad. Yep. Yeah. So, on my sleeve, some of the guys make fun of me. We all write our dopes in different ways.
Right.
I have the old quarterback sleeve, and I can just flip back
the old school way, right? These guys got it on their phone, and you're over there with the sleeve.
But going back to when Joe was asking like, what's the sniper team? You're pretty much the eyes and ears 99% of the time.
Right.
I think 90% of the time you're the eyes and ears for that stack of like 10, 12 guys that are getting ready to possibly go into a residence or a structure or venue after we've exhausted all the other resources, from robots to
all the other
calling
options.
out.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that's the last resort, that the team would come in on if it's the hostage rescue, then, they'll do everything they have to do until it becomes dynamic and we got to go.
Right. Yeah, I forgot to mention that.
Yeah, for the most part, you've done it.
Yeah.
We're the eyes and ears of what's going on.
Yeah, that's what I forgot to mention. And I think now it's a lot more common that people have mentioned that and people know that the majority of the time when you're on a sniper team or a reconnaissance team, the majority of the time, I mean, unless you're in hardcore combat, like some of those hard guys like Chris Kyle and a couple other, famous snipers that have gotten a lot of kills under the belt, or even the other guys, unless you're in a hardcore war zone and you're downrange doing a lot of stuff, the majority of the time, 90% or even more than 90% of the time, your eyes and ears, because you can see more versus in an urban environment when these guys are stacked on a door. You can see inside, let's just call it the venue, for example, or whatever, the objective, right? So venue for civilians and objective for military and tactical. You can see what's going on inside, and these guys are stacked up against the wall, for example, right? So they can't see what's going on inside. You can say, hey, this guy's moving around, he's in this room, or he's moved to the back, or whatever.
And are these guys located in different angles of the?
Oh, definitely.
Oh, I see.
So you want to get whatever the best vantage point you can to complete your whatever the objective is, right? So,
and I'm only asking these questions because a lot of the viewers are gonna be like me, like we don't know what the heck is going on,
right?
And this gives us insight,
right? Yeah, no, for sure. Like, I mean, a lot of people have seen the movies, so they know the terminology.
Correct.
This gives you a little bit more insight on some stuff, and there's some other videos out there, the guys that are some way better guys than myself, and that explain it a lot. But this is insight from Lou that has quite a few years. Let's fast forward now, Lou. Did you want to say something? Go for it.
No, I'm just saying. Yeah, that's. I mean, that's the bread and butter for a lot of people.
Right.
That's what they do. Whether, like you said, it could be a FBI, that HRT team.
Right.
HRT.
Hostage
those guys
rescue
are,
team.
These are all like tier 1 kind of guys.
Right.
And they respond to all the major incidents. But yeah, there's so much information, that you can expand upon, with sniper and ballistics and all that stuff. But I just wanted to add that real quick.
So now let's talk about now what you're doing now, aside from the sniper stuff, because we can go on for days on that stuff, right? We're just touching the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
You do also have a side, let's just call it a side hustle, right? But you do have PPG, right? So Palm Beach Personal Protection Group.
Yep, correct. And I started that in. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Vince.
Go for it.
No, yeah. I believe it. I'll tell you a quick story, and I don't know how you're doing on time.
We got like 3-4 minutes.
We'll go. We'll
go into
we'll extend,
yeah.
and if we need to edit or we can add a little bit more, but I feel like this is worth it. Go for it.
Okay, right.
Okay, well, in 2009, two friends of mine that retired now, real good friends, they had a connection with a local store in Palm Beach, with the rich side of the island.
Right.
They were retiring, they were moving on to bigger and better things, and they pretty much handed it to me. So I went and got all my licenses. So I started a business called Palm Beach Personal Protection Group. And I loved it. Just like we talked before about being in uniform, being able to take care of somebody else's assets or family. I enjoy doing that. So it was kind of passed on to me, and I ran with it, and I hired people that had the same, or if not better, kind of training than I did.
Right.
Because people are depending for their assets to be in safe hands.
Right.
From point A to point B. So I did that for numerous years. I kind of stopped doing a little bit because really to do it correctly, I needed to put all my time into it.
Well, the market changes too.
Yeah, and I don't know, 2016, 2000. No, I'm sorry, about 2017. I said, you know what? If I'm not going to do it 100%, I'm going to wait till I retire. I kept all my connections, my friends, my networking, just like with you guys. I talk to you guys every so often. So what I do now is really I like to concentrate on the concealed weapon permits,
right?
Firearms instruction. So that's what I'm doing right now, and I'm just waiting for my 4 years to be up, so there's no conflict of interest or anything like that with my, and I can really afford to give 100% to my business.
Right, and that's what I wanted to jump into before I didn't want to interrupt you. Is now you're teaching. Well, you've been for a while, but you're teaching firearms instruction, right? So you can see on your background you got your NRA certification, and I see on your page, your Instagram page. Give everybody your Instagram page real quick for everybody.
It's PBPP protection. So PBP protection,
and I'll put in the link below.
Cool. And you teach out in Florida. Everybody, you teach everybody how to get their CCW for your people that want to go out there and get their CCWs.
Yeah, it's funny because I teach at work as an instructor, a certified criminal justice and standards instructor. But you're teaching pretty much type A personalities, like military guys, right? I love teaching civilians because they're so hungry, man. They just want to, like a sponge. They give me more information. Show me how to do this.
They'll take feedback humbly versus guys that you got to like wiggle it into them, right? Like trust me a little bit, right?
Some don't want to be in training at all. You have to do it. But
salty.
Unlike civilians, man, they just suck it up, and that's why I enjoy teaching civilians, man.
Right.
Especially with the things going nowadays. People want to, they do want to buy their guns, long guns. I see a lot of civilians shooting sniper rifles at that range.
Right.
We went to a school in Tennessee, and this guy had converted a Sprinter van, and now he lived in it. Oh, but he was an armorer. He did everything to his van.
It's called van life. I think. What do they call it? Van life?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it van life?
Yeah, it's called van life. The younger.
It's pretty cool though.
It is, because guess what? You don't have
you're mobile.
You're mobile. You don't have a
rent overhead.
Yeah, you don't have rent. And you can save up money because people hold jobs. They take showers at gyms.
And you see some of the conversions. That's pretty sick.
Oh, man, they're nice. And you have like a full zombie vehicle. So,
and this dude shot. He shot probably better than some of us, man. That's all he did. Goes from school to school. A guy with money goes from school to school to school. We only allow so many schools per year, depending how many guys are going.
Right. You know what? You never count anybody out because you never know what they're capable of. And I've learned that. Right?
Don't count. Yeah, absolutely not. Don't judge a book by its cover, man.
Yeah. So before we conclude this, and I have to say we have to do another podcast with Lou, right? For sure. And I definitely have to come back out and shoot with you again. And you got to come out here if your wife will let you, right? But we definitely have to do another podcast. We got to touch on a lot of other stuff.
This is just part one.
Yeah, this is part 1 or episode 1 of 7.
Yeah.
And then, so let everybody know your website. You're going to be starting a podcast soon. And then let us all know the services that you provide aside from your LE stuff.
Yeah. Well, the podcast is going to be called On the Beat. And it's actually one of my best friends, retired sergeant. Man, this guy is he's been one of my mentors. And he's got his own gym. He does a lot of combatives, the boot camp and all that stuff. My website is protectingpalmbeach.com. And in my website, it shows what services I provide, from threat assessment to the personal protection, the firearms training, and surveillance and everything that comes with security.
Right. Counter surveillance, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. Counter surveillance, so, I appreciate you guys having me, man. Again, this is my first podcast, so I'm glad I was able to do it with somebody that I know, man. So
right.
Really
no, that's good because you get a little bit of practice.
You did a really good job.
Yeah.
And best of wishes to your podcast, man, because there's so much knowledge that you both have, and the podcast has gave us like a dictionary of knowledge now. I can ask you a question and you can just tell me what you know from what you've been through experience wise, because you can't learn everything you guys are talking about in a book.
Right.
A lot of it is in the book and life experiences.
Well, we talked about this last podcast. You can learn it in a book, but application is key.
Correct.
Right. Yeah. Well, Lou, you got any last minute things you want to say before we sign off?
Right. Again, just thank you very much. And we started a conversation about those trying to get into law enforcement. That's some of the stuff that we're going to be talking about in our podcast, where we're going to really go into what we were talking about, the explorers, that there's internships and so many other ways to get your foot in the door.
Right.
But for those that do want to become a police officer, guys or ladies, we're going to give you different options of how and what's the best way to go about them. So, but again, man, blessings to you guys, man. Thank you very much, Joe. Nice meeting you. And I look forward to talk to you guys again, man.
Yeah, for sure, Lou. We'll touch base again. We got to definitely have another podcast.
For sure. All right, guys. I want to thank all of you guys who tune in this long. We have a wonderful host, Vince. Thank you, Vince. And finding all these guests that give so much insight.
Right.
And we hope